Hello, and welcome to the Argyle SMB Finance Leadership Forum. Innovate, adapt, grow. My name is Nick with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our panel moderator. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. Throughout today's event, you will also have the opportunity to win one of several prizes. So be sure to check out the prizes and raffle rules tab of the interface to see how you can earn points. For those seeking CPE credit today, you must answer at least 3 polling questions and remain on the session for its duration. Polls can be found under the Polls tab on the right-hand side of your console next to chat. Afterwards, if you are eligible to receive credit, you will receive an email with a link to your certificates. If you have questions on credits, please email cpe@argyleforum.com. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat, and we will address your questions at the end of the session. Now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our moderator, Philip Peck, Vice President, Advisory Services and Finance Transformation Practice, Peloton Consulting Group. We're super excited to have Philip and our panelists for a panel discussion titled Empowering Growth, Adopting Cost-Effective Technologies. Welcome, Philip. Over to you.
Nick, thanks. And greetings, everyone. I'm extremely excited to be moderating this session, as I fundamentally think this topic is highly relevant for the FP&A and finance community. And we have 3 outstanding finance leaders here today who are going to share their insights and wisdom throughout the discussion. Before we get started, I'll share a little bit more about my background. As Nick said, I'm currently Vice President of Advisory Services and Finance Transformation for Peloton Consulting Group. Our company helps organizations drive digital transformation across their enterprise, providing advisory, consulting, and managed service capabilities across enterprise performance management, enterprise resource management, supply chain management, human capital performance management, customer experience, analytics, and data management for the cloud. I've personally spent my entire career, 35 plus years, in FP&A, finance, and controllership domain areas, both on the corporate side and the consulting side, helping organizations explore the art of the possible and adopt leading-edge practices across the entire FP&A, finance, and controllership functions. I'd now like to let each of the panelists introduce themselves. Thomas, can I ask you to go first, please?
Absolutely, Philip. Thank you for the tag in here. My name is Thomas. I'm CFO of a mid-market professional services company out of Atlanta, Georgia. The company's been on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing private companies for the last 7 years. The last 2 years while I've been here, we've grown double digits. So we're certainly in that growth type phase. Prior to that, I was CFO of a travel tech company out of Orlando, Florida. In my tenure there, we grew that business over 300%. Happy to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Thomas, thank you. Christopher, would you like to go next?
Sure. My name is Christopher Hollinger. I'm the CFO for Rethink Food. Rethink Food is a nonprofit based here in New York. Food system. I'm the CFO, like I said. I run our finance, accounting, data analytics, technology.
Christopher, thank you. Maybe Shweta, I'll turn it over to you for an introduction here.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be on this panel. And, as everybody before me has mentioned, this is a very relevant topic, and I'm excited to talk and hear more about it from my colleagues here. So my name is Shweta Pai. I am a CFO of a private equity-backed consumer goods company called VCM Products. I've been in finance my entire career, which is now, surprisingly long. No, I spent the first about decade and a half of my career in investment banks and private equity, and I also did a lot of corporate development type work, and so a lot of M&A type of work, as well as integration and those kind of roles. And then I moved into startup scene, and I was in a lot of tech startups, primarily as a CFO, kind of a resource for very early stage companies. And then I slowly moved into kind of growth equity portfolio companies. So that's really where I am now. We are a consumer goods company that is doubling in size. And it's a platform business, which is very, very common in private equity, where we tack on a lot of other similar products and create a portfolio of brands and companies. So that's really where we stand right now. And, growth and empowering growth using technology are kind of speaking to the two big things that has been a constant in my career. So excited to talk about it.
Fantastic. Just listening to your backgrounds, my mind goes to, wow, if I'm an audience participant, I could not have picked three better people along the theme of innovate, adapt, and grow. So
right.
Let's dive in. First question, and Thomas, I'm going to have you start, then Christopher, then Shweta. From your experience, what key indicators should finance teams look for when assessing whether a new technology investment is necessary or cost effective?
Sure. Yeah. So how I think about this for key indicators for assessing this technology investment. One, you start with the ROI and the payback period. So you want to be able to quantify exactly your expected return on this investment. You're going to look for those short, mid, and long-term gains, and make sure you identify any cash flow constraints. So you want to make sure that it's worth the effort. Going down that list as far as like, hey, is it going to be worth the effort? Am I going to get an ROI? You want to look at those operational efficiencies that you could gain. So as you think about, hey, what's going on? You want to look at, hey, does it reduce manual tasks? Does it increase the speed of your business? Does it improve accuracy? So some of those things have got to really speak to you in order to figure out if you want to really go down the path of a technology investment. You want to make sure that this thing will scale. So if you're going to go down spending the money in tech, you got to make sure it'll scale with your growth. Otherwise, you have to replace it in 3 years. Not great. No one likes to do implementations. You want to look, see if it integrates into your current tech stack. You don't want something that's siloed on its own. You want to make sure that it's a capability of playing well with your existing tools. Look at employee productivity. Will it enhance the team output, or will it just add another tool? And then really what I think is important is to help. If it does it help reduce risk? Does it have some sort of cybersecurity compliance with it? Is there some sort of data integrity improvements? Is that why you're getting a tech stack? So those are kind of the areas of key performance indicators I'd look at when assessing technology investments.
That's great. One quick observation. The one point you made about does it scale? I think you're clearly stating an organization can see a shiny object and a particular technology solution. You might go, oh my gosh, that's promising nirvana and whatever it is. But that has to be thought about in the context of the broader enterprise and a holistic view of a solution. That's great.
Absolutely.
Christopher, how about yourself here?
Yeah, so one of the first things we really look at is, what is the business case? What are we trying to solve in the business with the technology purchase? So one of the things, we generally focus on, like I said, that's one of the big things we really focus on. And then once we determine what is the business case, we start to think about, what is the landscape of potential technologies that we could bring in to meet that business case? One of the major things we've been investing in is we're really focused on, we have 4 major departments within our organization, and each department has their own P&L. So we were thinking about, middle part of last year of how can we better automate the process of producing those P&Ls so that we get them to the department heads in a much more timely manner. And so we looked at the landscape of what are the different technologies, and we went through an RFP process. But generally, like I said, we generally start, what is the business case? What are we trying to do to really help, either the business department heads be more productive, or how can we automate within the finance department so that I can free up my people's time from spending so much time on actually pulling the numbers together to being more helping the department heads understand the numbers, interpret the numbers, and help them to use that to better manage their business.
Oh, that's great. I think that's a great perspective to have. And you certainly alluded to, as part of the business case, defining up front what your success factors are.
Right.
So how do How do you say, was it a victory? Was it a reasonable victory?
Right.
You establish that as part of the business case to help for the justification. Shweta, how about yourself?
I think Thomas and Christopher really, and Philip, you guys really got to most of it. The only thing I would add to it is, and this is part and parcel of being part of private equity and part of growth equity, high growth companies, is focus on cash. One of the big things that we're always focused on is margin and cash conversion. And any technology, we really have to kind of put it through that test of what is going to be the impact of this investment on my cash conversion? Is it going to help my margins? So, a little bit more long-term view. And again, part and parcel of being part of private equity is the ROI ends up being really speedy. So we are always focused on ROI less than 12 months, where we can really get the payback for the investors, for our owners, as fast as possible. So for us, cash is kind of paramount. And if the technology really helps us grow, scale, but also helps us with cash conversion, can help us solve some inefficiencies in our supply chain process or in our demand planning or whatever the case may be. If that really helps us with our margin and we can see that payback come through in 12 months, it's a done deal. But if one of these levers are a little bit off, then it becomes a lot more challenging. I mean, honestly, the focus on cash and margin is so high that we have to have growth. And that's how you also put parameters. That's how, you put these guardrails on these investments, is to make sure that it does drive business profitability or at least cash conversion.
Great perspective, and connecting the dots here. The business case that Christopher talked about specifically for you, Shweta, that cash conversion and the cash focus, expediting the payback and the ability to support those overarching objectives. That's sacrosanct. That's what you have to do to justify any of these investments.
Yeah, it's table stakes.
Yes, well stated. Let's pivot a little bit here. And now that we've got, okay, how do we think about, moving the finance teams down the path of exploring and hopefully making those technology investments for all the right reasons? How can SMBs balance the need for innovation with the realities of limited budgets and presumably limited resources? Christopher first, then Shweta, then Thomas.
Yeah, I think that's a big challenge because definitely we're kind of in that SMB category. So we have limited resources, we have limited budgets, and we really want to really think about how can we maximize what we're trying to do. Once again, big part for us is how do we leverage technology, particularly from an automation standpoint, to make our to enable the limited number of people we have to do more. And so, anything that we can automate, figure out ways of automate, particularly on a cost-effective basis, is something we really, really are focused on and really are driving at. And so, like I said, I run technology, I run data analytics. And, we build out a lot of dashboards. We're looking at ways of how we can visualize the data such that, our people can make decisions much quicker. And so those are some of the things that we really focus on from a business standpoint.
Quick observation as well. Thinking about the typical resource constraints, there's the element of obviously the cost side, but for these initiatives, you typically want to have the best and the brightest, or your A players, part of the initiative to help drive process change, to help with the implementation, to do the change management. So to your point, you have the teeter-totter a little bit of, you need to do the initiatives to drive the efficiencies, the automation, and get the value add, such that you can free up time for those A players to add the business value. And making that work obviously can sometimes be challenging.
Yeah, and also to piggyback off that, one of the other things that I really look at is, from FT equivalent. what can I put in technologies or in automation to alleviate the need to add additional FTEs.
Yeah.
Over the last 2 years, we grew pretty substantially. We had some city contracts where we were providing meals to different populations. And so it required a lot more invoicing. The restaurants that made the meals, invoicing to the city. So how could we leverage technology to be able to do more invoicing without adding additional accounting people? And so that was one of the things that we really looked at and figured out some solutions.
Great real world example. Shweta, your turn.
So from the need to balance the innovation, one of the things that I feel like we've learned through my experience with startups, et cetera, has been that innovation isn't always just about money or capital outlay. It's a lot about focus. So we have to kind of focus and keep it bite-sized and then grow incrementally. So that's kind of the agile, thinking coming in, where we, some of the technology investments that we've started out doing pilot first, right? We pilot it, we make sure it's working. It's kind of like, if you were to put it in startup sense, it would be like having your MVP, your minimal viable product out there, test it out, and then go incrementally from there. That also helps us make sure that whatever investment we're making, we are really focused on the performance of that and whether it's actually aligned with what we need to build. The other things are, when it comes to ERPs and CRM systems, there are a lot of them have features that we just don't even utilize. So sometimes these innovation projects are, hey, we have this amazing ERP that we just put in, but we haven't even involved it in like supply chain or demand planning. Well, let's go in and see what the features are, and let's see if we can leverage existing platforms in order to really enhance and be the right jumping off point for us. And then, of course, cross-functional ROI is always key for us. So we're always looking at, it's not just an ops. We're too small for it to be a siloed project. Nothing is, if it's impacting ops, it's also impacting finance. It's also impacting sales, marketing, whatever. And the more it touches, the more, the better the business case. But we also have to make sure that it's also not breaking something else. So innovation in some kind of a marketing system doesn't just somehow break whatever we were using in finance. So these are kind of the three big kind of directives we really face when we're looking at, okay, how do we balance this with the realities of limited resources and limited budgets? It's just leveraging existing, keep it small initially, and then take bite-sized pieces and incremental, and then see if we can go across.
That's a extraordinarily good framework. I hope everyone is listening and taking notes, because it's I loved your piloting and course correct as fast as you can, as needed. And hopefully demonstrate the victories, or if you're not getting the value add, pivot as quickly as you can.
Exactly.
Exploit and leverage the value of your inherent investments you already have to the extent possible. And then, as you said, make sure that the value prop is pervasive across all functions. That's a great framework. Thomas, anything you'd like to add on this one?
Yeah, great insights here. I'll just try to be brief here on just reiterate. Everyone has limited budgets now, but if you really can prove a case, the budget goes away. You're going to get it done because it's going to have the ROI, and particularly if you're looking to grow. So I'll just reiterate, prioritize those use cases that have clear business impact. So that solves a huge pain point, or that creates like new revenue streams. Those you go after. The rest you leave off. You got to leave good for great, as they say. I'll just add in here, when you're first assessing a technology, sometimes or most of the time they give you a sweetheart deal to get in the door. So I would say maximize that sweetheart deal. Try to ask for some additional months on it. We mentioned the pilot program. Ask for everything under the sun when you first entering the door, because they want to get your business. And then finally, I know it was mentioned here, but involve the operations, IT, finance, all the stakeholders early, so you don't have scope creep that will bring down the ROI unexpectedly. I'll leave it at that. The team covered it pretty well.
No, that's great. And I think your last point is very, very relevant, Thomas. The notion at times there can be a go slow to go fast. So upfront, engaging all those stakeholders may take a little more time, but getting their wisdom and insights and perspective upfront before you're already down the journey mitigates, from a risk perspective, the unknowns, or that's not what we really needed. What about me? So I think that's great perspective and advice for people in our audience here. Let's move on, and this is a little more the pragmatism of the discussion. What are practical strategies for evaluating and selecting the right technologies that optimally align with business goals? Shweta, we'll let you tackle this one first.
Okay. So the practical strategies, I mean, this goes to, this is, I don't think this is very unique at all, but the framework that we always use is, first of all, we need to know what the current process is. So you almost need to do an audit of your current end-to-end. And I need to see what that looks like before I can make a decision. So I need to see, what your current bottlenecks are, and what does the process really involve? What are the key dependencies right now? So once we do the current process mapping or audit, if you will, what also comes out of there is a definition of what success looks like. And then we can really look at, okay, how
current clients or past clients. You really want to get your research beyond the numbers in that fashion. But I'll leave it there and pass it over.
Fit for my organization, my business needs, and kind of where you are in the journey. Christopher, thoughts for you on this one?
Yeah, I was just going to say just three things, and it's going to be touched on. One, you really want to look at how it's going to fit into your current tech stack. I think that's very important. It's going to talk to your current tech stack, you transfer information. So that's one of the big things. Then the other thing is one of the things we try to do is look at, do we currently have anything in-house that can do the business case or help us to do what we're really, really trying to do? So really do an assessment of what you have in-house, and is there something you can Frankenstein or repurpose to kind of help you to get what you need to do. And then the last thing for me, which is really important, is demos. For me, the touch and feel and the ease of use and the customer experience using the technology or the tool is critical, because I really am concerned about how long it takes people to train or get up to speed to actually being able to use it. Some things just take a long implementation time frame. And so for me, short implementation, ease of use, customer experience or user experience, particularly for me, which I run technology, I'm not the most technical person, is something that's important to me, and I think it's important to the rest of the team.
That's a great perspective, and the kind of summarizing that there's two elements that popped into my mind. It's accelerating your time to value, getting the value from the solution, but also maximize the adoption of the solution. So the ease of use, the interaction, whatever those elements are, you need both. When you're going down these journeys and these significant initiatives, it has to be adopted, and you want to get the value, extract that value as you can. Let's pivot again and talk about, we could spin it in a positive way and to success, or we could say things to avoid, or if you were doing a pre-mortem before you embark on a big initiative, what to look out for and mitigate those risks. So the core question: what common pitfalls should SMBs avoid when adopting new tools? Thomas, you first.
Okay, great. Yeah, I know we mentioned it earlier. The shiny object syndrome was mentioned. Just don't pick the tool that's trending. Particularly if it's not the hot AI tool. A lot of the AI tools will probably fluster out, and everything will be AI in the future. Or AI, if you're buying something just for AI, it'll probably be potentially redundant in 3 years. So focus on that. Don't underestimate the change management feature of it. Change management technology is only effective if it's adopted. So you can have the best technology, best implementation, but if you don't provide that training and time, then we really need to, you're going to lose steam there. We talked about the cost, but just make sure costs are really buttoned up. You know what implementation is. Don't let scope creep come in. You know how much training is going to be, and you can try to accurately predict what the long-term maintenance is going to be. So 3, 4, 5 years out, we mentioned the scalability. And then make sure you have clear KPIs to evaluate what great looks like. And then do not overcomplicate your tech stack. Don't just bolt on something to bolt something on. It's not going to work out in 5 years from now.
Once again, great perspectives. I know we're going to talk about a little bit more about change management, but that's, in my experience, it's easy to talk about it. It's not necessarily easy to commit the resources, the time, and actually make it happen in a comprehensive enterprise way. Also, scope creep, that's a lurking danger on any initiative. So being mindful and intentional throughout the journey, to your point, box it in. And you may say something into the future, but don't let that deferred delay or jeopardize the implementation you're doing and trying to
That's a
extract
parking lot item.
Yes. Christopher, how about yourself here?
Yeah, one of the things that, when we've, I won't say got in trouble, but or at least we've been frustrated is when we really, to be honest, didn't take the time to, one, do the evaluation, but then two, during the implementation, ensure that, what we're looking to have done is what's actually being done. So, having regular touch points, ensuring that, the need that you outlined for the tool to address is actually being met by, and this is more so for us, when we're having we've had custom solutions kind of added or built on. And then when you're doing that, also just ensuring that everything talks to one another, because, the ease of transition, transfer of data is something that for us has been challenging in the past.
A takeaway I think that's important for the audience, you touched on the discipline of good program and project management is essential for these types of initiatives. Like, be extraordinarily disciplined, the rigor, the cadence, the constant check-ins. That's your mechanism to identify risks. That's your identify, are we veering off track? Do we need to augment resources? Are our partners not delivering? Or it could be our teams, they don't have the bandwidth. But that's really the metronome, and that's essential for just the discipline. So it's great to call that out. Shweta, how about you here?
So, I think you guys got most of the big pitfalls that I would have, or that I've seen. The only additional one that I think, I've seen happen sometimes has been around accountability post-launch. So, the saying of success has 1,000 fathers, but failure has none, or failure is an orphan. I think there is a lot of that kind of mentality or that accountability that needs to be kind of finalized. Did we just lose Thomas somehow? Oh, there he is. Great. No, I think that would be the one thing is especially when we're talking about something that is cross-functional, or which is wonderful, but that also puts us at risk of having lack of accountability, because people can just point at each other for any kind of issues that come up. So we have to be very clear around who is really tracking it, who's tracking the metrics, the success factors, impact, usage, and whatever the ROI is. So we just make sure that, accountability has to be paramount as well.
Great perspective on the accountability. The accountability thread manifests itself in different ways, from the overarching, call it steering committee, and those who are shepherding the initiative, to driving the accountability down throughout the organization who are part and parcel to the initiative. And then coming out of it, you go, okay, time to extract value, or time to make the world a better place. That accountability is resident in many, many places, and having the structures and metrics and processes such that ownership is clear.
Yeah, I think for us, we talk a lot about like I said, we're a nonprofit, so it's very focused. We're very focused on the mission and how we can serve our constituents, the people we serve, and so a lot of what we can say is by implementing this new tool, this new technology, this is going to be the effect on our ability to have more impact. And in a lot of cases, it will save us money or make us more efficient so that we can provide more meals to the communities we serve. So a lot of what I use or we use is really going to the mission. And we're unique in that situation being a nonprofit. But I think whatever your core goal is or the organization's mission, I think part of it is really talking about that and how the implementation of the tool technology will help. And then I think selfishly, talking to people, your team members about how implementing is going to be beneficial to their career. For me, I talk a lot about automation by freeing up your time so that you're not doing repetitive tasks, manual tasks. It allows you to spend more time with the business leaders and learn from them and have a lot more impact and really grow your career. So those are some of the things I do or try to use.
I greatly appreciate, especially given who you work for and the nature of the nonprofit, linking and explicitly linking and directly linking the initiatives, the overarching goals, and the value prop with the mission. How do we optimize our ability, whatever that mission is, to be successful? I've worked with some clients in higher education, and it's a little bit different than a typical corporation or a little bit different than other types of not-for-profits, but aligning everything they do to that overarching mission, whatever it is, that's kind of the holy grail, or that's the that's the beacon that you're looking for. So that's obviously great. Your other point, the classic statement, what's in it for me? That at the individual level, the change can be hard. And some people just embrace change. They seek change. They look for it. Others are, where's my cheese, or don't cut my cheese, whatever the book. You have to, change is different to everyone, and being intentional around how you navigate the change such that they can understand it can be better for them, and whatever that is, but it could look slightly different depending on where they are in the process and where they are in the usage of the technology. Shweta, on this one, what do you think?
So culturally, there are a lot of things. I mean, when it's again, private equity kind of has its own culture. When you're private equity backed, it gives you a specific kind of focus on incentives and also around just making sure that there's a business value attached to it, and it's not just about cost control and about cash. So I think there is a lot about, whenever we are managing change, we are very, to yours and Christopher's point, intentional around the people and making sure that we involve them early and often, especially the key frontline, folks on the team. So that we can get buy-in. But there's also a lot to be said around finance being kind of the model. So we have to model tech-forward behavior within the finance function. So there's a lot of, we have to make sure that, we have to be an innovation enabler. We have to set the tone that says, okay, it's not just about, cost or whatever. This makes sense. This is a good business decision, so we're going forward with it, even if it costs us a lot and there's a lot of change that we have to manage. So I would say that's the big things. And then, of course, with anything around culture and change, And the private equity world does do this really well, much better than a lot of other industries, I think, is around celebrating wins early and often as well. You celebrate them and you make sure that it gets well communicated, so that people feel like they have buy-in and that they are part of the bigger kind of change change team, and change organization. So I think those are really my big tips on how to impact the culture around innovation and how to build that.
I love one of your phrases that you said, and I'm going to play it back and then actually add a little bit to it. Model tech forward behavior.
Yep.
And a great, just thematic banner, but you could be model and be a model of tech forward behavior. Be the evangelist, be the vanguard, and say,
right,
this is a better way. This is
right.
Where we're heading. And come on, join me in this phenomenal journey as part of the starting early and often with the communication and change management and day in the life of and all those things, but be the best advocate for the tech forward behaviors. I love that.
And I think that's a little rare in finance, because finance is often seen as like this gatekeepers, where the teetotalers keeping track of the books. And I think the big change is if they see finance as a function, as being, hey, they are on board. Well, then there must be a lot going on. It must be really good for business. Yeah, I think there's we have a lot of leverage within the organization that finance doesn't always use as well as it could.
100% agree. Finance is uniquely equipped to be that extraordinary leader and help the organization. Thomas, I'd like to hear your thoughts here on this one.
Oh, I think they covered it off. Y'all had a great discussion here. I think fully baked this one. I appreciate the opportunity, but I'm gonna let us move on to kind of the final thoughts and Q&A.
Got it. All right. So we're getting at the end here. We'll put a bit of a wrapper on it. And Shweta, I'll put you on the spot first. If you were to provide your final thoughts, a summarization, or key takeaways for everyone in the audience, what would they be?
So I would say innovation is and growth has to be business imperative. So this is, it's no longer an optional thing. Technology isn't optional anymore, even for very small businesses like mine. We have to adopt technology, and it's less about chasing kind of technology trends. I think Thomas or Christopher, one of you guys mentioned about, AI tools and all that. And there's a lot of noise in the finance field, especially, but we have to look at innovation almost as a, as a supplemental tool for us to solve real problems. And I think we have, from a finance perspective, we have to make sure that we are, to Philip, what you said, we're tech forward. We make sure that, hey, we have to take that on as not a challenge, but as an opportunity for us to make better decisions, have better cash cycles, improve margin, higher ROIs on all of these. Like, we just have to have that a mindset, I think. And I think I'm excited to see where innovation, especially for finance, goes in the future. But it's also great to hear more and talk more about how finance can support broad innovation across. It's not just a IT system anymore. It's not just technology.
I love that theme. There's a perspective that it's kind of the finance inside out, and us being innovative and helping the organization, but then it's the outside in, like other pockets of your organization. And I think, Thomas, you even said on a different topic, hey, there's lots of industry groups out there. There's peer-to-peer networks, there's conferences, there's things where us staying facile, alert, informed around the ever constantly changing world of innovation can only benefit us as we think about our initiatives. You change the end, or it morphs, and the path changes from when you originally thought you were heading down. And that's that adapt, and being even on the journey, you have to constantly think about things, course correct, adapt as you need to.
Yeah, the business you're at 1 million isn't going to be the same business at 20 million. 20 million ain't going to be the same business at 100 million. 100 million is not going to be the same business at 750 million. So you have to be adaptive and understand it's a journey. You got to, of course, correct the route.
Good. Well stated. Christopher.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that always be conscious of what is the business case for the investment that you're looking to make. Like I mentioned earlier, being able to have a much AP system, AR system allowed us to really leverage up and support the growth in the number of invoices that we would have to process. So always be conscious of the business case and why you're really making the investment, and then just being able to devote the resources, particularly internally, to ensure that the implementation is going the way you really want it to go.
I appreciate the last comments there, Christopher. On we in a sense, most organizations, and we as finance leaders, in some sense, we have extraordinary aspirations, and we have unlimited wants. We have to prioritize, and we vet, and of course we do. But then when we say go, we launch a product, we drop the flag, the Indy 500 starts. You need to ensure that you have the team, the resources, everything in place, the program management and project management discipline. You have the KPIs right in front of you at all times. You have your change management plan in place, and you need to execute exceedingly well. Things will happen. Thomas, to your point, the journey is not formulaic. It's absolutely not, especially in the kinds of things we're talking about in this rapidly changing from 1 to 20 to 100 to 200 million way. That's explosive growth and explosive change. So that, and knowing that you're going to stumble over things and being prepared to address that's certainly essential. I think with that, we have filled up our time. This has been so exciting. I want to thank you all for all of your insights and wisdom. Nick, I think at this time, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Great. And thank you all for such an insightful panel discussion. And I want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. For those of you who earned points throughout today's event, an Argyle team member will be following up with the winners in the next couple of weeks. This officially concludes the Argyle SMB Finance Leadership Forum. Thank you again for joining us today and engaging in our content. We look forward to seeing you at our next Argyle Digital Finance event soon, which will be our CFO Leadership Forum, Finance Strategies for Success, on May 22nd, 2025. Have a great rest of your day.